As we are here in a conference organized by the University of California and the Maastricht University, I want you to make aware of a study both universities did last week together, and it's about PowerPoint fatigue. And it shows that if you go to a regular conference, 100 slides, if you absorb that as being part of the audience, that's for a regular conference about the level. If you go to a conference with a lot of academians, like this today, the level is 125 slides. So that raises the bar. If you have such a conference and it's about real estate, it's 150 slides. But we are already on 175. So as we are today in a house of democracy, I want to give you a choice. You can choose for the following. Option A is, I proceed with my presentation, which are 20 slides. Option B is, I present you the conclusions and explain you how I came to that. So just want to see hands, so raise your hands. Option A is the full presentation. Option B is the summary in the conclusion side. Option A, who votes for option A? Wow, thank you very much. I have prepared that for 2 months.
Maybe as a chairman I have to say that it will take equally long.
Yeah, no, that's option B. Okay, well, thank you very much that you gave me 40 minutes. What I will do is just give you 2 slides then. One is with logos, so you can absorb that still. Because my company is a company who works with 65 people in Europe and the US to advise companies on site selection, meaning we work for end users, or at least that's the perspective I'm talking today. The perspective is about an Indian software development company who wants to set up in Europe a software development center, and the question is where to do that and what at the end of the day is the right location and building. Or for an American food company who wants to set up in Europe a European headquarter to plan and organize the business better, and the question is where do you do that? Or for a British lawyer firm who wants to relocate back office activities out of London and want to go to another location where the costs are lower. So that's the kind of work we do, and it's including, so this is all you're going to miss. So this is for the type of companies we do these kind of studies, which include everything. It's about taxes, it's about finding the right people, it's about telecommunications, it's about utilities, it's about suppliers, so it's not only focused on real estate. Actually, if you look to those site selection issues, real estate is not that important. So that's probably also the reason why I was put at the last in row at this conference. Now, I promised you that I would go to the, so these are really interesting slides, you know. You have to take a careful look at this, because if you think about it, how much brain power behind these slides is, but yeah, you know, you voted for the last one, so everything what I wanted to explain to you, interesting recent trends in the future, you pass that on. Interesting survey results, how many people are prepared to pay for additional premium to pay for refits, okay, conclusions. Now, I will do it in a different order to keep you at least a little bit awake. So I want to start with the 4th conclusion. If you take about site selection issues, you can imagine that that software development company I talked about, or that manufacturing company, or that company wanted to set up a European head office, they're all different types of projects, all different types of requirements which play a role. But at the end of the day, you can summarize them in 2-3 groups. One is cost, everything you can express in dollars, euros, whatever. Quality of the business environment, to finding the right people, to find the right building, to find the right customs authorities. So its cost and quality are different, and we have a fantastic model how you can integrate them, but you didn't want to see that, so okay. And the 3rd factor is risks. So risks which are involved, strategic risks, tactical risks, operational risks, which are also involved in location choice. So if you look to what factors play a role if a company really wants to set up a new operation, then sustainability issues as a whole play a minor role for a lot of clients. And I showed you a number of those clients, and I'm just telling you what we see in our day-to-day work. Only at the end of the process, where you talk about where you talk about the right building, then sustainability issues become a role. And the question is whether that's logical. And it's not logical, because if you look, and now we're going to the third conclusion, you have to look for the total carbon footprint. If you look to the total carbon footprint of a chocolate bar, then what you can impress, let's say, what you can influence by a green building is less than 1%. Less than 1% on that whole supply chain of a chocolate bar, let's say, if you take the total carbon footprint into account. So I think if you think about, for a lot of companies, about greening their business, the question is whether you should look not into their total supply chain. So if you take a company who wants to distribute stuff, then the question is how can you optimize less, for example, transportation in fewer locations or sometimes even more locations, and that will have a more and more profound influence on the total carbon footprint of a company than just a green building. Now, if you look to, and I'm going to the first conclusions, first conclusion, in our day-to-day work, we see a lot of differences between the front runners, and we have seen excellent examples of those companies today, but there's also a difference between the CEO level and the CRE level. CRE is for corporate real estate, those people within companies who are responsible for the corporate real estate in a region, often reporting to the CFO. And what you see is that the considerations at the CEO level is green is okay, you know all these beautiful annual reports which talk about, and we saw an interesting example of CNA, which talk about how important green is, etc. What we see is that there is a difference between that level, CEO, company, direction, do the right thing, and what a corporate real estate executive, at the end of the day, who has to lease buildings or who becomes a tenant in a certain distribution center, where he is, what the metrics are for that person. And that's often in terms of budgets, costs, bottom line. And that means that in practice, we see quite a difference between, and I'm not saying I applaud it, but I'm just telling you what we see in our day-to-day practice all over the world, is that there is a difference between the CEO level who wants to propose the company, and I'm not saying that they don't do it, but really see it as a flagship of greening your business, and on the other hand, what a lot of the corporate real estate executives are being calculated on. What we see is that if companies look at a CRE level, and what you see is that if the survey is being done by Coronet Global, which is a worldwide organization of corporate real estate executives, you see that they are prepared to pay, two-thirds of the companies are prepared to pay 5% premium on retrofit of their own building. If it's about leasing a building, they say, okay, well, if there is energy saving, why should we pay more? So there is even no premium to that. So what we see is that in the reality of the corporate real estate executives, and I'm not talking about the 20% front runners, which we see in all the magazines, which we see at these beautiful conferences, but about the majority of the company, that distance, that difference is still there. And it's mainly focusing on energy. And there were today already more presentations who talked about, and even in the presentation of Frank, you saw how public transportation is also an important role, how you can green the mobility of your people. So what we see is also that the focus is mainly on energy, and it should be broader. So my last conclusion, which is on this slide number 2, is that green, if we talk about green buildings and greening your business, it's not a hype anymore. We see the excellent examples of how to do that, but I think that the reality is relatively harsh, certainly the last couple of years, and that having green buildings and investing in green buildings and being prepared to pay a small premium to have more energy efficient building, that's still not common sense. Thank you very much.